Is my AC that loud? You know what? It's 90 fucking degrees here. So if it's
I don't hear it at all.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Someone will hear
Zoom is great at suppressing background.
Okay. Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave.
Hello, and this is the skating lesson. We're going to be discussing all things going on in the figure skating world this week. Even though it is 90 degrees outside, it is heating up on the ice. So be sure to subscribe and smash that like button. Send us love. The skaters are needing so much love right now. Going on. Jonathan, you don't have a vase, but you do because you're in Nashville for an opera. You're in a very nice hotel room. I mean, I just want you to grab that flower behind you and maybe...
Wait, Dave, I bought that flower at the grocery store. It's like I had to buy a vase so I could have
maybe
one.
You could put one in your hair and be like Tenley Albright.
Oh my gosh, yes. If I could have Tenley Albright's legs at like age 1,000 or whatever she is now, I would be very happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing.
Lots going on. So yeah, it's been like a active week since I saw you last. I have to say, when I was talking to you, I was like, during the middle of the show, I was like, oh, my leg is feeling a little better today. I actually skated on it yesterday. So the swelling has been going down. So
is that against doctor's orders?
No, it's so funny. I don't know. But when you go to doctor for a sprain, if you know that it's not broken, now that I've had this happen, there's actually like nothing that the doctor can tell you that you don't already know.
Yeah.
But you have to do it, right? And you get it x-rayed and you talk to him and you do the whole thing and they're like, well, listen to your body. How is it doing? Because I was talking to him, I was like, am I gonna like injure it more? Well, why don't you try in a week? So that's what I wound up doing. But it was just, they tell you absolutely nothing.
It's also vague. Yeah, exactly.
I really like learn more from going to my PT about like what we should do in formulating a plan that way. Which I'm going to PT anyway because I've got 99 problems that I've been working on over a long period of time. So I go to parabolic. It's all very.
So when you first went on the ice, how did it feel different?
Well, it always hurts more in the beginning. I think it loosens up over time and you get more used to it. But yeah.
So is it mainly like a stiff feeling, you mean?
It's a stiff and a pain. So
okay.
Better. So
okay.
We're gonna see what's gonna happen. I mean, it's taped and a compression and all stuff.
I know, because I'm trying not to be that skating mom that's like, so are you competing?
I think I didn't jump, but I could do everything else. So
okay. You're testing the waters.
Yeah, I mean, so Isabella, I don't know how to say her last name. She's in the documentary about our Canadian adult skater ladies. She had sent me this book of ankle rehab exercises that she got, and it's really good. The other thing is like everyone gives you their own advice about ankle stuff. And the biggest thing is like people have really differing opinions on ice, and people will be like, ice immediately, ice for days. And people are like, no, you shouldn't ice after the 2 days. Then people are like, ice is bad. Then this is, like everyone has different views on it about the efficacy of ice. So. And
what have you found?
I'm following this book that after the couple days, you really shouldn't be icing. So that's what I'm doing. In the beginning I did, but it's just funny. People will tell you like, oh, get off the ice tomorrow and ice it immediately. It didn't really swell. So I was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have stayed off of it as much as possible. So yeah, we'll see, but more to come in that front. So yes, I booked a flight to Michigan. So we'll checking the things off. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gives you the option.
Yes. All right. Also, just a quick housekeeping note. I'm doing an interview for Igor Lukanen tomorrow on his Krieger Studio Instagram page, June 7th at 8 p.m. So he wants, the channel to blow up. So, if you're around tomorrow at 8, tune in. I don't know what I'm being asked. So we shall see what Igor comes up with. So.
See you then, Dave.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about, everyone's here to talk about Ross Minor. All right, Jonathan, I can just feel it. We didn't even talk about
Isn't it so funny? Like, because it was just a couple days ago, right? So to me, I've already processed that, and now I was so ready to talk about the documentary we watched, but I was like, you're right, Ross Minor really is sort of the major story here.
Yeah. All right. So Ross Minor is suspended for 6 months. And it was listed on the Safe Sport database as sexual harassment, text message sorts. It was on Snapchat. It did go around on Twitter, some of them. There are others. Some are believed to be cropped. I think this story is definitely developing. I know that there was covered in a couple of press, and there are definitely people calling around about the story, and it more may come out, but it's certainly distressing.
It's certainly not great. It's certainly not great, whatever it is. Yeah. Because when Safe Sport announces something like that, they just say they did an investigation, or like Safe Sport is also like a trigger word for me. Like, I'm like, oh God, Safe Sport stuff again. But they do their own investigation of sorts, right? And then they have decided that this 6-month probation is their final call on it, and then it's finished.
No, you can get your own lawyer and try to fight it, and maybe Ross didn't, and just, some people want to move on with their lives and don't want them handing it over.
Because what I'm saying is 6 months is not very long.
6 months is not long, but I think the nature of it, the fact that it was a high-level competitor who was left off of an Olympic team, there are so many things about that starts to get more triggered. I mean, Ross will forever be known as the guy who got passed over for the Olympics, right? So you have that attached to it, then you add this to it, then people start looking into it, then people start attaching, well, now I don't feel so bad about that. And it just grows and grows and grows. And I think because Mark and Peter had just stopped coaching to open a business, there's a lot of questions that come into play that I'm sure reporters are looking into. Naturally, you would think if you're a reporter and you're going to cover it, now I don't know who has the budgets for it, but you would look into, like, is there a bigger story here? Why did they stop coaching? Why did he, when did this all happen? And he has a girlfriend that he's dated for a long time. So this is obviously, and there's an age difference there. There's a lot people are, I think, looking into in that situation. The big thing I came out of this, and obviously I don't think that, racist sects are ever okay, and I think he obviously made some big mistakes, and 6 months is not.
Well, it seems like such an arbitrary amount of time to be like, oh, you've done something terrible. Oh, you could be a threat. Here's 6 months off, and then it's 7 months. Just feel free to come back.
6 months is enough for this to, like, make your Wikipedia and damage your reputation forever. I mean, people will be commenting in the YouTube comments forever. I don't know how much it would harm someone's business based on things that I see here. There are people who are known to be predators, and they have full coaching businesses. So I don't know in terms of that, but certain people are more in demand than others and are thought of as better. For some person, it might not hurt their business. For someone, it could do a lot of damage and be a major headache. I think the main things that I think came out of this is that so many of these athletes are homeschooled. So many of these athletes don't have peer groups outside of skating because these are the people that they interact with. And I think that there's a big problem when you look at age of consent, because that's one of the issues here, is that this person was underage at the time that these messages were sent. I believe, I feel like in high school, and I don't know your experience, I remember the teacher in sex ed like hammering in age of consent and what could make the cops get called on you for something. I remember her telling us, if there's a senior dating a freshman and they have sex and that girl's parents find out, they can get you arrested. And I remember this being like drilled into our heads.
Isn't that interesting? So I grew up just outside of Chicago. We had nothing like that in high school. Like in 5th grade, we had like generic, like, here's what reproduction is. No discussion of consent, no discussion of appropriate behavior or not. Now, this may sound funny, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation, I learned most about this from Law and Order SVU, which was like a show I would watch, and they would have these episodes about like a 19-year-old dating a 15-year-old or something like that, and when it could
we
become
watched
very
a TV
complicated.
movie about this. I remember like when they used to wheel in the TV on the cart, you know, and other things. It was definitely discussed in high school quite heavily. I don't think that it prevented everything, but it certainly gave an awareness to everyone about potential issues.
We were only talking about drunk driving. That was like every day it was about drunk driving.
In family life,
we needed to talk about this.
So senior year, we did a family life course where you had to take like the Cabbage Patch doll around and do that, and I guess make people think about family living and teenage pregnancy. I don't know, but you know, you did that whole thing, but it was definitely discussed heavily and maybe earlier as well. But these kinds of issues do get, I think the important thing is that even though you think it's a sport, it's skating. Most of the older people in the rink are members of Team USA. By this point, if you're still skating at that age, you're likely at that point in time. Because you should think of whose responsibility it is. I certainly think rinks likely have some sort of situation to handle, you know, in terms of this, where a lot of the onus is on them to report these things. So I don't know if that's like a rink contract or a rink discussion needs to have once a year. But I do think that these are kinds of issues that are going to have to be passed down more and more and more as we see more coaches getting in trouble for not reporting things. I think as we saw with Sylvia Fontana and John Zimmerman. And I think that these discussions, it's clear that like one safe sport training where someone can click through is not going to cover it, right? Like
no, not at all. And I'm about to, I teach at like various programs and things like that. And I just did one of those where you like click through the sexual harassment training. And it's like, Mary comes into the office. Bob says, A, hello. B, show me your tits. C, how was your weekend? Which one was inappropriate? And I was like, are you serious? Like, come on. Yeah. Like, what is this? How is this teaching me about these like complex issues that may arise? Like, skating's tricky. You've got a lot of older people dealing with a lot of younger people in physical ways. Like, and like you're saying, a lot of these younger skaters are so in this bubble, and the only other people around them have also grown up in the very strange bubble.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a lot of zoomed out perspective that a lot of people are getting.
I know that we've touched on this a little bit before, but the other unique thing that you have is when the ages go is that in other sports, like in gymnastics or in just other sports, when someone turns 18, they often go to college, right? And some of these sports, you know, it's all men, or it's, you know, you don't have the mixing of, you know, men and women the same way that you do in skating. Unfortunately, in skating, oftentimes someone doesn't leave to go to college. And maybe if they're 18, 19 years old and they're still skating, at some point they start teaching Learn to Skate, and they start teaching some lessons off of that. But then they might teach other people here and there, and they start, you know, working their way up in coaching. And that's fine. But then you get a problem is that they're still socializing with the people that they were socializing with when they were competitors, because they also still are. So then you have a situation where a coach is socializing with skaters, and there could be things about sex, about buying alcohol, about all of these other things, and the relationship gets blurred into coach-student and who's a coach and who's a student. Because if you are giving someone pointers on their jumps, and then it becomes a more regular thing, like, did Ross really coach someone? Well, if Ross went to your competition and helped someone, you know, to learn coaching and was given a trip, and then maybe he's giving you jump lessons once a week or once every 2 weeks, is he then your coach? You know, that dynamic changes. And I think that there's a lot of things in skating that need to be discussed, because it's not clean. It's not a clean definition.
That's exactly right. And you bring up a really good point about like starting a dynamic in one way and then it's sort of materializing. And I don't mean this obviously in a sexual way at all, but we even saw something like that with Corey Ade and Jason, where you still saw like a child and an adult, and even as he became an adult with Corey, like their interaction was still that of like a babysitter and a small child. And when he moved coaches, he was able to sort of enter as an adult, not as a kid in some sort of way. Do you know what I mean? That dynamic of kids.
Someone being, you know, you have different school teachers every year, so you don't have to redefine relationships constantly as you do as a skater. And there's such a stigma to leaving your coach and finding something else as a skater from all sides, even though people say that there's not. So I think but in terms of the person becoming a coach and a skater and socializing, you look in Colorado, that was a lot of the discussion around John Coughlin, around things that had happened. So, and there are things that are patently inappropriate, and then there are things that become gray areas or things that become normalized. So I do think that maybe there are safeguards about, can someone coach if they're still an athlete? And if they, obviously skaters need to make money and they need to have that opportunity to pay for training, but are there rules around that?
And if you're a young skater who wouldn't want jump advice from someone who was a great jumper, or you know what I mean? Like, it seems like you wouldn't want to be denied access to that information, but obviously there have to be some real parameters around the behavior off the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to go into the specific messages, and I know people will want to because they were very shocking and salacious. There's just a lot there, and I think likely lawyers to be involved, on both sides. So some of the text messages that I snapped were cropped, so you don't know if there's context missing, you don't know if there's more information missing, and
well, this is when everyone becomes an amateur investigator, and obviously we don't have all the information. And I'm not saying that Ross didn't do something wrong.
At the end of the day, he did message things potentially I believe, admitted to messages to someone who was underage at the time. Now, the context of that is up for debate, but I think in point of like whether you did something, that did happen. So a mistake that happened, but I do think that there are much bigger issues around this that we keep seeing again and again and again. And I don't want to minimize the situation here. I'm just saying that I think this falls into themes that we're seeing again and again and again that are going to keep happening.
And if the sport really is trying to make this huge foundational shift, these stories have to come out. Like, there has to be examples set. There has to be like, you can't do this.
Are there big committees looking into this? I would hope. I think it's something that will happen in the future, because if skating is going to stay a sustainable business and all the rinks aren't just going to turn over to hockey, there need to be safeguards put in place. Yes, they're going to be potentially burdensome and cumbersome for people who work in management at these rinks in terms of the trainings and things, but I think ultimately, for everyone's sake, it will be safer and hopefully better, to avoid some situations that happen. I mean, I think unfortunately, and one of the things is, well, these kids are very young, when they're taken away from their peers, and that's true, but the law doesn't look at it like that, right? So maybe if someone is 24, but emotionally they're 18, and maybe that's, rude for someone to say and understand, and then on one hand, someone will feel self-conscious about that. On the other hand, you are taken away from some normal socialization processes, and if this is your peer group, the law doesn't look at it like that. The law doesn't look at it as, oh, you're a skater who's 24 and you're dating a 15-year-old because you are in the rink together and working on your triple toes. They don't care, right? So that's a different kind of situation. So anyway.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yes.
Yikes. Yeah, again, and it's interesting to get your perspective, because I thought like 6 months seems like such like a nominal sort of amount of time, but like you're saying, the damage is done. The damage is done regardless of the time.
Before those messages came out, I was like, okay, so it's U.S. Center for Safe Sport. So that means sex related, because they handle sex. USFS Safe Sport handles disciplinary other issues, right? Then you look at, well, if John Zimmerman got 2 years for not reporting, what could 6 months be? And then you start processing it in your head.
Right.
But it was the most shocking thing of all time. I mean, Ross Minor skated to The Way We Were in a Mr. Rogers sweater. And then you're reading these.
I know. Seemed more of a quiet, maybe subdued kind of individual. But it just goes to show, what the hell do we know? You know what I mean?
Wow. All right.
Next.
Okay. How about the Unbroken documentary? You watched it? We didn't
Yes.
discuss it.
So so this is the Unbroken documentary that was done in the lead up to the 2019 World Championships, followed Zabiako and Embert and Ashley and Tim. And I remember we sort of mentioned, because we knew that it was happening, but I was unsure of like who put it out or what the point really was. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was well done. I wanted them to do something with the competition other than just these. It was sort of like a glorified fluff piece for all four athletes, but I enjoyed it.
So I was excited to see it. I don't think it was a real documentary. And I don't mean this rudely, because I'm sure that there were really issues in terms of access and budget. And I understand that someone probably really wanted to put something together, and there were probably tons of issues associated. Unfortunately, they had absolutely no access to these skaters to follow them in training, right, over a period of time. It looked to me, based on seeing the film, that we saw a couple clips of them on the ice in the very beginning.
Right.
And then for the rest of the film, we're watching them like get in the elevator in the hotel, sit down at a competition, stretch for 15 minutes.
Get a haircut.
As they're talking, and nothing is happening visually on screen.
Yeah.
And I am sure that they wanted to really follow them. It just wasn't successful. Ultimately, maybe because of the issues.
From the skating standpoint, yeah. And also it was interesting because I wondered, because we've talked about like what a distraction certain things can be right before a competition. So was this sort of like a get out of the ice when we're actually training because they're going to be overly aware of something?
It looked like they only got them for a day or two, realistic, right? Based on how they shot it. And it looked like they just stretched it out, baby. They just, and.
Yeah, was this like a Nina promo piece or like,
I mean, obviously they probably connected through Nina because it was Zabiako and Embert and Ashley and Tim. I thought it was fascinating to learn about Tim LeDuc, and maybe not in the most positive of ways.
Well, so it was the first, so I know that he's done his part to be out and proud in a sport where it's difficult,
it's great.
Which again, the general public thinks is ridiculous. But, there is something to that idea of feeling like you don't do what you inherently want because your instincts on the ice are going to be too gay. And Rudy always talked about that in his book, that like everyone's knee-jerk reaction was like, you're real flamboyant on the ice, this sort of stuff. And that really messes with you as a performer, I think. The fascinating part to me was to learn about this sort of maybe uber religious, backwards sort of mentality in which he came up with that sounded very misogynistic.
So I asked him, someone said that their coach was not very misogynistic, and because he came up with Sergei Rozanov, with Ernie, he's now in Detroit. He was in Indiana. Now, and everyone has their own experience. I got that obviously there's some backstory there into him feeling very oppressed, and it sounds like religious in nature. And even like family. Now, I got that he has some things as a pair skater that he is very insecure about, particularly his strength. And if you remember, Bruno Marcotte told us that Marissa chose to go with Mervin over Tim because Tim didn't execute the lifts successfully at their tryouts. Now, he said that he had a couple of tryouts at the time, and I know that Tim at that time was really wanting to skate with Marissa and be very successful and thought that they could be good together. And I'm sure that when you lose out a good partnership to that, many people thought that he had a really good partner with Didi Lang. And
I remember being so floored by their overall look at that 2014 Nationals.
Yes, but the long was not successful, and then it all fell apart, and many people felt that was premature. You're not in the partnership, you don't know what the real issues were there.
Right.
I know that he'd also tried out with Sam Cesario, and I think he maybe toyed with the idea of skating with Katie Denny. I don't know if they really had a tryout or not. Now, Jankowskis was also someone that was on the market. Someone in there, he feels, according to him, didn't want to skate with a gay partner. Now, I don't know if they said that to him, but it clearly built that being tied into the lift issue. It just seemed like a lot was going on. And he did go off the grid, go on cruise ships, but kind of fall out of the mainstream skating buzz. He was not someone on a cruise ship who was posting in every port videos of himself.
Right.
There's a real need to succeed there that comes out, which is interesting because I think we always viewed him as one of the most talented skaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's very interesting that you put someone who's not very strong with lifts, and not his strength, right, with someone, and then completely mismatch them with someone who is rather tall for pier skating. Doesn't seem like a match made in heaven, right? Well, what do you think is going to happen? Of course, their lifts are going to always be an issue. And then they fall. She gets a concussion in dramatic form when, then she gets up, and maybe he helped her up, and that was considered like a giant red flag, and the ref doesn't get in. And the issue of concussions, and much bigger than skating, which these athletes may or may not be aware of. And then you have everyone commenting like crazy that this situation happened and a ref didn't step in, and they want to finish for the points. And then they tell him, don't read the comments. And he goes on and reads every single comment.
Glutton for punishment.
And he's angry about it. Oh, that people don't understand. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. Okay. This is in a larger conversation about concussions in sports that are happening in football and soccer and things. And this situation happens. And I think then he does read the comments, interprets them to confirm his own insecurity, but does it as a negative motivation.
Yeah.
Whoa. This is why I think all skaters really need a therapist and a sports psychologist if they are in the public eye in this way. Yeah. And I don't mean this as a criticism to him. I think that he needed someone really helping him and making sure he got the support other than coaches. And I'm sure his coaches were trying to help him, and people were trying.
But the coach's job is to coach, not to be a mental health expert. Yeah.
And I think that this situation was it was going viral at that point in time. And that's a lot for an athlete who's from Indiana, who's not been on the main, stage that long a period of time to adjust to something like this that could happen. I think that's where they really need teams of people. If we want our skaters to be successful, also we need to really match people appropriately. And I know that they have that outsider energy and that really motivates them and has driven them to the top. But I think it also maybe resulted in their lifts at Worlds were really weak this year. And inherently, they're just not matched for success. I think if
there's just limitations. Partner, yeah, of course.
If he had a smaller partner, I think he'd be great at the lifts, be fine at the lifts, right? Yeah. And that's not to say that Ashley is too big. It's to say that Ashley needs maybe a guy.
Well, and I was just going to go there because that was Ashley's narrative. Ashley's narrative is that everyone's mean because she's quote unquote too big, and she made it about her weight and all this sort of stuff.
She needs a strong ox to lift her.
Yeah.
Because you are taller. It doesn't mean that you're not good, right?
And even Marissa, if she had been used to Simon, do you know what I mean? Who was this enormously tall partner? It's just a different vibe, of course. So it was.
I was fascinated by, and I really do like him, but I thought whoa, there is a vibe there that is coming off of here. It was a little off-putting. I thought, wait a second, because you think I think that many people had a very natural reaction to that concussion that was from concern, that was not born out of just wanting to harm him or shame him. And some people felt like he made her concussion about himself, but he was the one who was lifting her when she fell. Of course he's gonna feel.
No, I feel that would be so dark if you were the partner. Yeah, that's a real serious thing to have experienced, especially knowing that it may have been something he was self-conscious about even beforehand. And the lifts in general, or
think
whatever.
Think of how Elena Berezhnaya narrative got shifted because we knew that her partner was abusive, and then they had always done spins too close to each other, and she got kicked in the head. It had almost been shifted over time as though he kicked her in the head on purpose, right? Like those things are always connected, right? And
right.
Maybe they weren't connected, right? Like maybe those are what? Anyway.
Yeah.
Just
and again, it sort of struck a chord also because obviously we do a show where we talk about all the skaters, and I would like to think that we treated the situation with respect at the time. We weren't like, this was Tim's fault, or do you know what I mean? Something like that. But it was clear that a referee, that was the real narrative there, that the referee needed to have shown up in that moment. But then there's this idea that like, well, if you can't say anything nice, just don't say anything at all. And it was like, these things exist. You are in the public eye. People are huge fans of figure skating. People are fans of you and Ashley. People are fans of pairs. Like
the reason
there will be discussion
because of the lack of proper concussion protocol and the fact it was like center ice on the camera, bam, and then they got up, and it was completely inappropriate from what we're told about concussion protocol and treatment. But I understand. I have empathy for him as that person going through this situation, but that's why I think that the mental health of skaters and these athletes who, listen, they're kind of plucked from obscurity, and then maybe they have a viral moment. When you're a football player and you're a baseball player or a basketball player and you're climbing up and then you become a hot shotting, there's a progression, right, of bigger and bigger things happening. And there are teams and money put into you. In this kind of a situation, I don't believe that these people are prepared for something like that when they were going, 2 million views, 3 million views, and tons of comments. And the comments only fuel the video being shown.
Don't read them. I mean, that's more to my point. You're right. People will always say something, and people won't know what this real situation is. So if you're the person that they're talking about, please stay the hell away from the comments.
Yeah.
Don't even indulge that. That's really like looking for trauma, looking for more trauma.
Anytime we're in the Russian press, I don't read the comments on our video, or I'll stop when the people, or in general, once people start going negative or like whining over spilled milk and not understanding something, stop looking. In the beginning, I try to reply to everyone, be polite, build community. No, I turn it off, and you can't internalize it, because at a certain point, it's not even about you anymore. It's
That's exactly right.
And leaving the comment, you have got to just let it go. Right. Because something will seem like it's the biggest deal on the internet and you're being discussed and you want to look at it, you can't. You can't. Right. It's just going to make you angry. It's going to make you anxious. I tried to tell this to Anakon too when they were going into it, and
the first time it happens, it's really hard.
The first time it happens is really hard. So, and I was just trying to be like,
this was probably the first time it happened for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, you have to just back away. But it was the first time it happened for Mexico. So they're freaking out. And I'm like, you just have to back away. And this will end in a couple of days and people will be
no one will remember this in a second. Yeah. But it's so hard to have that perspective in the moment.
You literally, like, it feels so big. And then it shifts. And there are certain cases that are different and things like that, but you have got to, disengage from it. So, there are certain things that come to mind of things that have happened that are frustrating and all different situations. But you have got to know that it may seem like it's the biggest thing. And a lot of times what happens is that we all have positive and negative views on people, right? Like, what someone's strengths and weaknesses are. Like, you may like 90% of a person and be like, oh, well, I don't love this aspect of them. Something negative happens about you and they write about that thing that they don't like about you, and just like, and
of course,
battling and whatever it is. And they may not even remember that they wrote it in that point in time. But people get into mob mentality and things like this, and you feel like you are like public enemy number one.
Yeah.
And it always does.
Yeah.
It always does. I mean, you can choose to respond, choose not to respond, but yeah, it's you can't live and die by what people are going to write in the comments about you on social media, because you can't believe the good and start to think like I'm amazing, and you can't.
Yeah.
Then you have the other thing. You have Ashley Cain, and Ashley also did an interview with Polina this week. And this is where we talk about skater answers being like pageant people. And this is why I don't think that she was a great person to have a documentary about, even if she did have a concussion that season. Because Jonathan, just ask me a question. I'm going to respond like Ashley Cain did for an hour with Polina.
Okay. So what did it feel like to make that transition back to Paris after you had been competing for so long as a singles skater, Ashley?
Wow. I think that in singles, I really enjoyed like putting the work in, doing my jumps, being artistic and owning that. But sharing that journey with a pair skater and with our team and our coaches has just been so great together. And we have such a fantastic team, Jonathan. You know, and my parents are just so willing to learn as coaches and work with Nina, who has such a passion for pair skating, and she just wants to share it. And I think that's fantastic. And, you know, I've learned from Nina and she's learned from me. And I think I've learned about this level of coaching. And it's not that my parents aren't great coaches. Nina just has a different perspective, and adding to it and sharing that knowledge. And then from her, I think I've taught her what it's like to have a taller pair girl. And I think that I'm teaching her. And I think, you know, what's so great is that on Team USA, we really have the greatest teammates ever. When we go to competitions and we just have that shared community, and we really are doing what we can to do our best and to help each other be their best. And I think it's great. And US figure skating has done so much during the pandemic to just keep us connected and keep us motivated. And I'm trying to give back with and be on these councils where we're mentoring people, and people ask me questions about how to do things in a healthy way. And I don't know, and I can't give you that information, but I can support you and say, yes, you should do this. And I think that it's just really great to share that. And, you know, at home, I see my parents just working hard and I'm doing the same. And we just have such a great relationship. And with Timothy, just coming to the rink every day to maximize this time we have left in the sport and to just make the most of it. And I just think that, you know, we're just all really motivating each other.
Great, Ashley. Sorry for falling asleep in the middle of your answer. Sorry for waiting for one detail about what that perspective means. It's just scratching that surface. Yeah.
I love this like new, like edgy Polina, like knowing how wealthy Polina is, and that she like has this like down low bottom, just like cool.
Yeah, right? Amazing.
Polina's like so cool that like she no longer has a podcast, Jonathan, like on the pod this week.
Amazing.
You would think that she has like some edgy thing she's talking about, some like group.
Right, exactly.
On the pod. I could just like picture Polina like, oh, what are you doing, girl? Recording the pod, you know.
That's funny.
I freaking love her. All right. I find her fascinating. And
she actually does have an outsider vibe to her, and kind of always did, in the way that like skating was happening over here and somehow she was just like around it. Even though she was like on the teams and all this sort of stuff, she seemed so in her own
we could learn
version
so much from Polina about positive self-talk and about confidence, overachieving and plowing through.
And that's the thing, like for instance, when you interviewed her on TSL, she was giving you, not like those Ashley comments, she was giving you bullet point logistics on why she was awesome. And you know what? I was here for it. she was like, you know why I have good skating skills? Because I passed this dance test and this dance test, and I work with this person, so I do this with my edge more than anybody else, and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, she is bringing you detailed information on why she believes
it's off-putting to other skaters because they know how confident she is.
Yeah. Yeah. And she ended up on an Olympic team, top 10.
With no international experience at the senior level before it.
None. Yeah. Broke many rules. Yeah.
We have a lot to learn from Polina in life. Okay, I'm just saying.
Just saying. But I have to say, like, just back to the documentary for a second, like, the part that was news to me is I had forgotten about how serious Zabiako's situation was with that throw triple axel fail. When she, like, was in a coma for 10 days and all the blood in the ear and all this sort of stuff, I was just like, oh my gosh, I had forgotten it. And in some ways, it reminded me of that book, The Second Mark, when we read like these harrowing stories about the Russians, these incredible stories from the Chinese pair. And the Canadian story was pretty privileged, all things considered. And that's sort of, in some way, how this came across too. Like Zabiako was in a coma for 10 days. Yeah. And, you know, Ashley was like, some people were mean on social media and said I was too tall.
Didn't ask the Canadians about their injuries as much, or they didn't lead with that?
Yeah, do you think that was the point, was to make their narrative seem so much more privileged and charmed?
And it wasn't really privileged and I didn't know if it was privileged and charmed, but in perspective to the other situations growing up in communism and that. I don't know that they chose to focus on the negatives when these people give interviews. You don't know, and you don't know the stories, and there are things there. So
yeah.
Now I would look at as like Sally Ann Peltier, coached by someone who now can't coach in Canada. Like that would be a much more interesting thing to revisit that story. What do they think about that?
Right.
What about their parents and the home life? And you know, you can always delve in deeper.
Yeah.
So.
But you know who else gave an Ashley Cain-like interview?
Hot Sergei.
I was like, it's actually, because at first I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking like, is this an Americanish thing where we're just gonna like smile through every interview and just be fluffy and kiss butt? And I was like, but no, after reading that interview, I was like, that's his version of it.
Well, do you know what he was doing? Remember when Tatiana said...
We all know what he was doing, yeah.
Remember when Tatiana Tarasova said that Kosternaya needed to apologize to the entire nation? He was kissing everyone's ass. He kissed the ass. I wrote it down. Terry, like kissing the ring. Not even... Yes, these girls just didn't appreciate what a good coach she was for them. I got so much experience from her. I learned she's amazing. I just wanted something else. Like he was being the Ashley Cain of Russia. Okay, he loves her. He loves Vera Artunian. Okay, the wife of Raphael. So he's kissing that behind. And remember, we saw him with Raphael at the World Championships, kissing the ass of Plashenko. Kissing the ass of Alexei Nishin, whose books he read. I mean, I haven't read all of them, but they are just fantastic. And I have learned so much. Kissing Danny G, Sergei Dudikov.
Even in his own way, Buyanova, he was like, even like, he was just casting a wide net. Yeah.
He was casting a wide net because allegedly he's blacklisted in Russia. I don't even know if that's allegedly. He is blacklisted in Russia right now. This situation, he is trying to get back in the good graces of everyone. I think that we've seen that Terry can be forgiving when it is self-serving. And she is building 2 more ranks. They're going to need more coaches.
Right.
I think he can take some humble pie and maybe come back for, I don't know, would you like to see, I would like to see him back. He doesn't want to say yes or no if he's going back. And remember, it seemed like Leishev was indicating that maybe he will come back, maybe he won't come back. It was in, you know, it was being floated, as you say, right? As we always know, when these rumors come out in Russia, there's always like truth to them, right? And they always say no, and then yes, and then I'm thinking he should come back, but they should cut his salary for like 18 months.
Well, I think it's an indicator of like how they're feeling about you at the moment with who they're letting you work with. So like I could also see him like at the most like entry level of skating.
Oh, he should be helping
Skating
their
groups,
5-year-old skaters who are skating to the Little Mermaid. He should have to do that. You know, the ones that Alyona Kosternaya had to practice with. And then he could work with like Arseny and Artem Fedotov and he's letting us know that he worked with Kolya Kolesnikov. Oh, he was Yulia Lipnitskaya is helping him so much. And he's helping Azerbaijan. And, you know, Igor Lukanin works with the Azerbaijani Federation as like a coordinator. So Hot Sergei is helping our friend Igor. So this is great. This is wonderful. I think.
Community. Yeah, that was the most obnoxiously obvious job interview I'd ever seen.
He was shocked when Trusova was leaving Eteri. He had no idea. Her parents called him. Do you think he prepared for this interview? How many bullet points do you think he wrote down that he wanted to get out?
Yeah, it seems very coached. It seems very, very rehearsed, these answers. Or I wonder if the questions were emailed to him or something and he was able to write them down, because again, they seemed very, very planned. They were very thoughtful.
He did a great Ashley Cain job. I thought he could be in any of the pageants. All right. But
he used too many specifics for it to, he wasn't even in just in general.
Except about Alyona Kosternaya. He can't talk about her.
Right.
About her. Or can't. Or what? Or should.
Both. All of the above.
Let's not focus on her. Let's focus on Trusova. Right?
That was clear. Yeah.
Why isn't he focusing on that?
Right.
You know, he doesn't enjoy journalism, he was saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even though it sounded like the interviewer knew him from skating days. And then he was saying he had actually coached with Eteri, like was taught by Eteri for a second when he was like 14 or something.
It didn't go well, he said.
Yeah.
But she had such passion.
Yes.
I believe she does have passion. I believe she has a lot of passion.
Or intensity, yeah. Which was apparently the secret ingredient, is what everyone is saying.
Maybe it is. Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
We are start to seeing some of these summer competitions. So knowing some of the skaters, we saw Isadora Williams competed at Colonial. So did Lindsay Thorngren. Now, Lindsay is getting ready for a competition in Milwaukee for the Junior Grand Prix. And the thing that I found so funny about this is that you know how I talk about Yulia Lautova. You know how I talk about the Hackensack and Montclair Russian skaters. They practice and skate, the ones who have Russian coaches, as though there is a potato famine and there is half of a rotted potato and they're gonna grab it. Okay,
okay, scrappy, one might say. Okay.
Lindsay did too many triples in her free skate.
That's where we're at. Okay.
I will say, working with Victor, her jumps look bigger. She looked more athletic.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting because especially at this year's nationals, it was just like the American ladies look like under-rotated central, like everyone with these like questionable turns and scratchy landings. What was really nice to see in that video was how clean all of those landings look. And again, I think it's because you're saying there was so much more height than we're often seeing in the others. And it was just so lovely to not need to check the call sheet, that it was just so clearly landed right on.
She was an aggressive girl. Well, I don't know if that Benoit choreography was left intact. I think Nina needs to help her with some arms and some drama and adding in the color to it.
Yeah, it sort of looked like how I would have viewed it at this point in the season, sort of like a bullet point version. You know what I mean? Like we were getting these big, clean, clear jump elements, and maybe there's room to fill in.
So do you know how they're deciding the Junior Grand Prix in the US this year?
Mm-mm.
They are going to have all of the ladies go to Skate Milwaukee. And then they're going to compete in a set. Now, Lindsay is probably told that if you do well, you get 2 spots because they're going to have her go junior instead of senior. And imagine O's going to be there. And let me tell you, Isabeau Levito,
Okay.
the one that's like baby Sasha Cohen.
Yeah. Love her.
I'm sure that Lautova is going to be like, Lindsay, you're going to go out there and win. All right? You're going to go out there and do too many triples because you can. All right.
Very clean landings, because that's where our other girl, who I enjoy watching so much, but you know, that's where Lindsay's going to make big gains on her. Yeah.
You know, she's in it to win it at that Milwaukee. Okay. That is.
Yeah. Milwaukee is her world. Yeah.
And I'm sure those other girls are going. I am sure the drama of the junior skaters, like we could just sit there and watch. And I'm sure.
When is that competition? Will they televise it?
I'm sure it'll be streamed on something, like hopefully not. I don't know why Colonial and the Boston competitions are always streamed on Facebook with no sound. Can we leave it on YouTube? Like, come on.
Yeah,
right?
Like, get it. That's just how you know, like, it's all these like antiquated, out of touch people running those sorts of things. Like Facebook Live, really? You know, come on.
Listen, I'll pay to watch Milwaukee. Hell, I would also like a camera on the coaches backstage.
Kiss and cry microphone, please. Yeah.
Come on. So many Russians there, the Letovs, Isabeau's coach, Lautova, popcorn. Give me popcorn at home. I will watch all of it. All right? Those are some gritty skaters. Just remember, half a potato in the cupboard, and they are growing
for it.
It doesn't matter if they're going for a cheated double flip. They're going to fight for it in your way. Okay?
Amazing.
That is what we are. Yes. Okay.
But I mean, I have to say also, like, I can't quite remember Lindsay's jump comp before, but she had like a Lutz loop, and then she had like the flip toe.
But remember, it got a lot cleaner since it got single carrot here.
Oh, it did. Oh, and see, to me, everything was.
And I saw it a month ago where it was like, or maybe a month ago, it was not that clean.
Okay.
Not that clean. So, or not that rotated. We would be like, it wasn't clean. You just said it wasn't clean. Not that rotated. Okay.
Okay.
So, just an interesting.
Yeah, aggressive content. Just playing to win.
We also found out that Patrick Chan is going to be a daddy this week, and I think Scott Moyer is as well, although it's not as public. So
yeah, you'd think if that news was like totally out there, it would be exploding at the moment, but.
Well, I don't know. I think Scott Moyer is done with the fandom. I think he is done.
And you know what? Fair enough. Talk about someone who learned not to read the comments. I'm sure it's Scott Moyer.
But there have been people saying that for a while, that Scott is passionate. So maybe it explains why there are no stars on ice. How good. So
they're all at baby showers. Yeah, okay.
We also saw Papadakis and Cizeron's tango, a glimpse of it. 55 seconds of wonderfulness, Jonathan. I think, is this going to be like that Lu Chen skating to La Mer to Janet Lynn's music that was like maybe once broadcast on some like network that we never know, and the ISU has never posted it on their YouTube channel, even though they could right now, and just let all the nerds luxuriate over Lu. You know what? It's so sad is that all like if they posted it today, I don't know that everyone would be as excited as in the moment, right? Like
yeah.
And the ISU may not get that like it was. Lu Chen was skating to Janet Lynn's music, and the whole thing. They could make a whole moment where they could splice Janet and Lulu together, and we would all just, they have that footage.
Yeah, they need to get it out there. That's the kind of content we're looking for. Yeah.
I want to see a Roman Sadovsky edited version of Papadakis and Cizeron, all the best angles of this tango. If we're not going to see it in competition,
right?
You know what? I think On Ice Perspectives like has a lot of it. And the other, let's just splice it together, okay?
So the question I have for you is what Matteo Rizzo was posting. Because was that music that was playing over that clip? Is that the music he's using?
Unclear.
Yeah, it was unclear to me. Yeah, I wasn't totally following that situation. So, okay. But I love all these, like, because now we're in that corridor where everyone's like sneak peeking.
Well, I don't even know if we can say what Lindsay is skating to or not, because she was at a competition where there was no sound. So technically, people have seen what she's skating to in public. But
yeah, because it was a public event.
Okay, then we'll say it. All right, she's skating to the Queen's Gambit. And in the middle of it is when it goes, I just want to be like all of the others. And like, it's so like French. In the middle of it, just like sounds come in. And you're like, yeah.
Amazing. Although, did you watch the show? I loved the show.
Loved the show.
Loved the show. Yeah.
See, I think they should add like a giant chess piece on the back of her costume and have it be like Tarasova. Like, you know how she would have like a glittery cross? I want like a glittery queen chess piece on the back.
Amazing. And then she screams checkmate and then like falls to the ground.
Yes. This should be a Russian program. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We need more ice dance vibes. Get Klimova in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Come on, like Pasha Grishuk.
Yeah, totally. Some like choreography.
Pasha was advertising, or Oksana was advertising lessons, and she listed herself as a 5-time world champion. I only remember 4, but is she claiming, like, did she win a world professional thing that we did?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to wonder, is if she had a world pro.
Listen.
I
also believe she's the greatest female ice dancer, you know, of her generation, surely, and one of all time. And I would absolutely love to work with her for many reasons. So I think that I could learn a lot of passion. I could learn a lot about performance, competition, twizzling.
Drama, projection.
Creating a character.
Yeah.
Doing a great fluff piece.
Yes. How to sing happy birthday.
Dealing with other people at the rink who are trying to take that half-rotted potato that you are going to take for yourself. Yes. All right. She gets it.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
She made herself a winner like Polina. All right.
Yeah. She believed it. She drank her own Kool-Aid. Yeah.
She really did. And you know what? She's a 2-time Olympic champion. All right.
And Jane Torval is not.
You loved Krylova's compulsory dance. All you want.
Yeah.
She has the titles. All right.
Yeah.
She has the titles and those medals.
Yeah.
And those lavender skates. All right. I mean, iconic. Jonathan.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. She was such a caricature. But that worked for ice dance in the 90s. That's what they were looking for.
You know what, Tracy Wilson? I loved her. Loved. All right.
Tracy, please talk to me.
Yes. So, and then another thing, I know that you don't like the gymnastics, Jonathan. And
hold on. I'm not going to let you make that my narrative. What it is that I don't understand all of it. So I do feel like when people watch skating and they don't know the difference between a quad lutz and a triple toe. So I feel like my lack of information prevents me from enjoying it at the same level.
You just need to know that there are gritty girls out there. They are competing.
Okay.
They are going for broke.
I enjoyed the because we were talking about this last time. Your girls sort of like practice vlog or whatever.
Chellsie Memmel and MyKayla Skinner. Yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. And she had like, were those her kids in the beginning that were jumping into the pit? That was adorable.
And she's had ankle problems. Like I'm telling you, Chellsie and I we're coming back to our respective sports at very different levels. But every Sunday night, I do the premiere at 6:00. Like I'm a big fan, and I will like ask Chellsie technical questions while everyone else is being like, Chellsie, are you friends with Simone? Chellsie, are you going to wear leggings at the competition? And I will be like, Chellsie, how is this connection going? Are you going to do a front tumbling pass, or what is going to be your fourth? She responds to every single one of my questions.
Meanwhile, because I would think you want to engage on a real level also, not just in like fluff stuff. Yeah.
Everyone else is like, Chellsie, you are so inspiring. Chellsie, da-da-da. And then
forget the inspiration. I want the technical info.
She'll be like, so I'm only going to do 2 events at the competition. And everyone in the chat is like, Chellsie, you're going to do all 4 events at the competition? It's like, she literally just said it. And I literally want to like, yell at them all, but it's okay.
Amazing. Selective listening. Yeah.
They're just
although when I saw her kids jumping in that pit, is that like something they do for kids learning gymnastics? Yes. I was like, that looks fun. I would pay to do that. Like that looks very fun.
Jonathan, no, you wouldn't. Oh, you know why? Think about what is in that sweat.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got sweat, blood, boogers, like
tears. Yeah, okay.
Tears, saliva. Ew.
Okay.
Ew. They're like,
well, I guess you're doing a high dive too. Like I would always do those like platform diving boards, like at the big pools. And I guess you don't know what you're jumping into.
There's chlorine in the pool. There's no chlorine in that pit. All right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Point taken.
They're also hard to climb out of.
Okay. Okay.
Because
it's like the ball pit at a Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
It looks better than it is. When you start thinking of it post-COVID, think about that ball crawl you went in as a kid.
Yeah.
At the McDonald's. Okay.
The Playland or Play Place or whatever it was. Yeah.
All right.
Gross.
But Chelsea's so fit. They have this. Gymnastic posted a split screen of her double twisting Yurchenko, night one in 2005, night one this, and it was like infinitely better. Like amazing body position, her stretch, she's fitter. She looks maybe like an inch taller. She was so good. Now, she had never done a full bar routine, but Chellsie also selectively edits to let us know that she didn't let us know that she had never done a full bar routine unless you've asked her in the chat like I did.
Unless you knew to ask her.
I knew. And my friend Erin was like, no, I think she did. I'm like, I watch this video every week. I have studied Chelsea's comeback. That is not her routine. I believe that when Chellsie fell on night one, that was a planned pause in the routine. All right?
Okay, fine.
Now, I have to say, Lori Hernandez got hurt on night one, and she should have not been here because she wasn't in the athletic form to do it. Maybe for a college level, skill level, but she was throwing skills that she was not. It was like one of those things where you're watching someone and we saw her tumble at the Winter Cup and I was like, she is going to get hurt. She is going to get hurt. She should not be doing those skills. That is too hard for her right now. Sure enough, she went for, we haven't seen her do a beam dismount. She didn't do it at the competition 2 weeks ago and she went for it now. And it was like, ooh. Also, Nastia Liukin needs a better glam squad. And I enjoy Nastia, but her looks are always like
that blue outfit thing she posted with those goofy shoes.
Ponytail. She was trying to be Dorit Kemsley from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Dorit's fake ponytail looks much better when she did it. Nastia's, I don't know. I'm sure it was expensive. It looked like she bought it at Claire's.
One of those huts in the mall. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, you're going for a look. Sometimes stand in your own beauty, Nastia. You don't need it. Your own hair is gorgeous.
Don't paint the peacock, right? That's a Golden Girls thing.
You're enough.
Yeah.
You're enough. And you have great shoes. But it was too much. It was too much, all right? But she gives us something to talk about. And I appreciate her for that, all right?
There you go. Talking points.
She has no chemistry with Tim Daggett. And the fact that they sit 6 feet apart on the broadcast, I'm like, oh, that's symbolic.
So now was Terry Gannon on this one as well? Because I enjoyed Terry's commentary when, yeah, compared to like most.
So much time in gymnastics. You want to complain about skating broadcasts? Okay, so they have the same producers for skating and gymnastics. They spend so much time. You will see Simone just standing around for like 20 minutes of the broadcast when other great people are going. And I know that Simone is the big star. And I think, yes, we should, obviously we have to focus on Simone for a long period of time. But at the same time, is it interesting for a viewer to just see Simone like breathing?
Existing? Yeah, exactly.
Looking,
yeah.
keeping up her ankle.
Yeah.
Talking to someone. I mean, they're showing her doing absolutely nothing. Sitting like for long periods of time. And they want you to know it clearly. I think they're like, okay, Simone went viral, so we need to talk about her being the greatest of all time. She can't do anything without them being like, and you know, she is the greatest of all time. She is the greatest of all time. Yes, Simone is going up to balance beam where she is the greatest of all time. Really not. And I think that it's self-serving for Nastia, NBC to like reflect in that and being a big fan of them so that people associate and then they follow you. But it's become so obnoxious and it's only going to get worse as the Olympics come on.
Yeah.
Because what if Simone falls and someone else wins and they're still being like, and Simone is the greatest of all time, then you're considered not covering the sport objectively and saying that this other athlete was better. And maybe you're not promoting them enough.
Right. Well, yeah, there is room
and
for more than one star.
Out of control. Simone is fantastic, but she was flying out of bounds. And the judges were overmarking her like we have never seen, okay? They were just like, they were only deducting for the out of bounds and not for the giant. bounding steps that were happening. So,
that caused the out of bounds. Yeah. Okay.
Now, delusional MyKayla Skinner is my favorite. And Jonathan, I'm just warning everyone, and I'm doing it on this show so that you know, MyKayla Skinner got very angry at the last Olympics. And that was when fans photoshopped her over Gabby Douglas. And she was just retweeting everyone the night of those Olympics. And then tries to be an Ashley Cain pageant girl. And she has tried to clean up her image and try to, over the last 5 years, even though in college,
she's that much more older. Do you know what I mean?
Like, 2 years ago in college, she'd be like, I'm going to do a double twist in Yurchenko and stick it, and maybe the judges can screw me again and not give me a 10. I mean, basically, that was what she was saying in different words, but very aggressively. Open.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Not realizing that she has some of the worst form and execution of all time. And there are other political things about her and her husband. Her husband was being anti-Black Lives Matter, and then she's trying to, like, you know, be buddy-buddy with Simone for the views. I mean, it is fascinating, Jonathan. Like,
yeah,
listen,
it's upsetting.
Remember when Kathy Griffin told us about, like, Heather Mills, when she was like watching that train wreck, she's like, she's on Dancing with the Stars with one leg. She's like, keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, and she wanted the leg to like fly off.
Yes,
or, like,
right.
Yeah,
and then she's talking about Marie.
Will make a thing. Yeah.
She's talking about Marie being nutty, and she was like, keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah.
You keep your eye on MyKayla Skinner. All right.
Okay.
Between now and then, everyone, because she is starting to realize that she took off 2 years of her life. And MyKayla is like not aware of her own form and execution, and they're doing the thing where they're actually starting to judge her accurately because they don't want to send her because they don't believe that she'll get the scores internationally. Which is like, newsflash, you should have told this person years ago.
Well, exactly, when something could have been done.
Maybe they needed her for vault as a backup before, and now they don't, right?
Okay.
So she's getting the scores that she deserves, which she seems to have no thing. If you go to, and I want to talk about athlete excuses, because under Marta, we were talking about this a lot, that there needs to be a balance, right? Because everyone's going to hear Marta and they're going to think Nasser and abuse. Marta was also very successful at her job. That's part of why there was the interest in them. Now, there needs to be a balance. But part of the thing with Marta is that there was a discipline, and it maybe too rigid. And now you're on the other hand where it's like loosey-goosey, and you're seeing athletes making all of these mistakes at big events that they're not as prepared for as they should be. And there needs to be like a middle ground, right? Yeah. And they have to learn and adjust. But I don't know if the person who starts off so loosey-goosey can adjust and become more structured. And Simona says that the camps don't have enough discipline. And I think we see it on the competition floor. And, you know, there's a certain thing with Marta where like excuses were not tolerated.
Yeah.
Well, MyKayla Skinner, basically, and then there's like skating, who is like, Yuzuru Hanyu had a cough, that's why he didn't, you know, be
exactly.
Okay.
New boots this, blades that, costume
right.
this, cold
skating
here.
is a lead with the excuse.
Yeah.
How dare you? There are boot problems. They are, but you know, there's right. She gave an iconic YouTube video where she had everything from going last on bars was why she messed up. Now, meanwhile, she went last all the time in her college career on every event. And she had just said at the camp before in her previous video that she was going last at the camp. She was like, I'm never last on bars, and I was last. I went to PF Chang's and had diarrhea. I had this. There, in a 3-minute period, she gave 22 excuses and reasons and rationalizations for why she didn't do well at the classics. Go watch it.
And what does your girl Suzanne say?
Losers make excuses, winners make adjustments. All right. This girl made so many rationalizations. Just keep your eye on Skinner. All right. Her husband, also a hot tamale of competitiveness. You just keep your eye on the ball. What if she don't do it again? You just keep your eye on the ball, Jonathan. You cannot make her up. She is so unintentionally fascinating. Reality television. All right. Sometimes she's the villain. Sometimes you root for her. You just eye on Skinner. Eye on Skinner.
All right. Note taken. Note taken.
She is the Courtney Hicks of gymnastics in terms of execution.
Okay. Say no more. I gotcha. I hear you.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Okay.
If Courtney Hicks were this aggressive and gritty and everything, she would be way more successful and fascinating.
Yeah.
And MyKayla goes for broke. Her YouTube channel also unintentionally fascinating, all right? I don't believe she sees her gymnastics the way we see it with, eyes. Okay.
Which could be a problem. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
You watch Skinner.
See, now I am gonna, you've given me enough information that now I do want to go watch all this. Just saying.
You watch it.
I'm going to. I'm going to.
She is a gift. Okay.
Okay.
The online community, because they will never reference it on the broadcast. But you watch. I want you to take a note anytime Nastia or Tim say that Simone is the greatest of all time. You take a sip. You take a sip anytime the camera is on Simone for a long period of time.
Doing nothing. Okay, also, yeah.
I had joked about this for the last 2 years to friends and being like, well, of course NBC is going to want to push Suni Lee on the team. She has a paralyzed father that gets referenced in every article, which is terrible. Jonathan, they are like grief monsters on NBC. They were zooming in. They're using him for every tearjerker angle. It's worse than we thought. It's worse than
even more. Okay.
They had him he can kick his leg now, and they zoomed in on night one that he can move his leg a bit. They
shameless.
Oh, those assholes at NBC. They are shameless. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You got Brenda Kerrigan in front of.
I was just gonna say, move over, Brenda. Yeah.
We have. Remember how Bethany Frankel once said about a Real Housewife, Bravo, a subsidiary of NBC Universal, same boss is in charge. She was like, this woman has a wooden leg, and she slept with the same guy that she was married to, the guy that 3 of the women have slept with. Of course she's going to be a Real Housewife. Well, you've got a gymnast who's great on bars and has a paralyzed father. I think she's going to be on the Olympic team for NBC. I mean, Jonathan, it is so patently obvious.
So obvious. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
NBC is going for this storyline, okay? The same way I want to know about Arthur Liu and Alyssa and the test tube baby and the children and all of that, okay?
But they won't go that route. I don't think they'll ever go that route.
For the Olympic year, if she's doing well, they will send the producers out to invest in that.
Okay.
She could make the Olympic team.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then they're hitting it.
I also want to know about the other stuff you'll find if you look up Arthur's Chinese name, about the financing and the controversy with
the government, right? Yeah.
Government and that prosperity group that they were involved in, and the woman who is maybe the mother figure in Alyssa's life, who is all sorts of over. Anyway, it's a
journey they may take.
It's a journey. It's a black hole of internet. And granted, people will say that China puts out disinformation about people. We need the fluff piece. We need the New York Times article. All right.
Okay. The 60 Minutes special.
I just know that I found out about this from a reporter because Arthur wouldn't give his Chinese name at first. And they were like, look that up. All right.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Allegedly.
Plot thickens. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. He doesn't read the comments.
You should not read the comments.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Not in any of those Chinese forums where they discuss him.
Exactly. Okay.
You keep your eye on Skinner. You root for Chellsie Memmel. Root for Riley McCusker, the sweet Mariah Bell type.
Okay.
Ankle as well.
Okay.
Justice for the ankle people. All right.
Okay. All right.
Root for Suni, and if NBC does anything that seems grief monster-y, over indulges Simone, even the time that her teammate, and Jordan Childs is the one, and they're now blaming her in articles. They're saying that her one coach was abusive, the one that got in trouble for drunk driving at the ranch, and that coach, remember, was the woman who was the choreographer for Tanya Harding, who helped
in '94. Yeah.
Helped Tanya, who tied Tanya's lace. They're now saying that woman was abusive or a negative force in Jordan's life, and that she's doing so much better next to Simone. And if they credit Simone, You just know that that is the Tanya connection, all right? So
Okay.
you watch this broadcast and you just luxuriate in it, okay?
And all of the gold. Yeah, okay.
And you just wonder what it would be like if the figure skaters were as gritty and stabbing each other's eyes out as these girls are with the messy hair buns. And you take it anytime someone has hair that you don't approve of, you take a sip, Jonathan, okay?
I'll be on the floor, yeah.
I don't care if it's, you will be wasted, all right?
Okay.
It is the greatest event, all right?
Okay, amazing. I look forward to
Tim Daggett says, Gymnastics 101, you fly high and stick the dismount, and you think that he's trying to emulate Scott Hamilton, you chug, all right?
Okay, because you're right.
It looks sexy, everyone, by now.